London, city of renegades and fashion rebels. In this episode of Video Fashion Style, we explore the art of British fashion. We remember England's wild child, the legendary Alexander McQueen.
I mean, everything Lee did was immense, and so his legacy will be immense. And I think with any genius, you see that in the history of the time, and you see it by looking back.
London's iconic Somerset House celebrates the eccentric style of one of fashion's greatest champions, Isabella Blow. Step into the video fashion archives to meet fashion revolutionary Mary Quant and the grand dame of punk, Vivienne Westwood. It's the end of an era at Burberry as Christopher Bailey steps down as designer. Then witness the beginning of a celebrated career at Christopher Kane's highly acclaimed debut.
Christopher Kane doing his first collection, and again a genuine talent. To see his first collection on the runway was really a thrill.
Grab a front row seat at some of London Fashion Week's most memorable runways, from Erdem, Simone, Rocha, and Stella McCartney.
Somebody said to me the other day, was London lost its edge? But it's like, no, it hasn't. The creativity coming out of there is just immense.
From the irreverent to the iconic, the regal to the rebellious, find out what makes London a capital of style, next on Video Fashion Style. In February 2010, the fashion community was shocked to hear the tragic news of the death of designer Alexander McQueen.
It was a great tragedy. I knew Lee, obviously both London boys. We went to the same school. I can't believe that no one had maybe noticed or realized what was going on in the industry.
Just days after the death of his beloved mother, the designer, known as Lee, was found hanged in his London apartment. His death was later ruled a suicide, and despite the tragic nature of his passing, it's McQueen's legacy that will endure.
The more distance we put between us and his death, the more he'll be appreciated, because I think he was so young that although we all raved about his shows, obviously, because they were such incredible spectacles, I think that sometimes the show stole the show, if you see what I mean. So the show eclipsed the actual clothes. And I think as time goes on, we'll be able to take stock of what he did. He had a really incredible legacy.
I mean, everything Lee did was immense, and so his legacy will be immense. And I think with any genius, you see that in the history of the time, and you see it by looking back.
Alexander McQueen did two things apart from completely revolutionising the way fashion shows were done in the 1990s. He had a very, very romantic side. He could do the most incredible couture dresses, and then on the other hand, very sharp tailoring.
Some of the most memorable shows we ever saw and will probably ever see came from McQueen. The way he thought out the whole production, in a sort of broad sweep, and taking in the clothes as just part of the production, was his major standout contribution to fashion. Huge loss, obviously.
McQueen's final collection was near completion when he passed away, and the decision was made to present it to a select group of fashion editors.
The fact that the pieces of the clothing, were jacquards of digital images of art was also a way of McQueen saying, the role of the function of art on consciousness. I mean, how much you're affected by it, how you see things because of art, how you feel things because of art. I think those are very strong images for McQueen. They do deal with things, morality, punishment, death, monstrosity. Those are things that have been part of his work over the last 15 years.
Alexander McQueen will be remembered as a master tailor, an historian, a romantic, a futurist, sometimes a misogynist, but always a showman.
He's a genius. Him not being here this season, physically you feel it. I think that you feel there's a place for Lee, and it's sad that it's the understatement that he's not here to fill it.
Gifted stylist, visionary fashion editor, and fervent patron of emerging talent, Isabella Blow was a fixture in the fashion industry and would become both a champion and muse of designers like Alexander McQueen and Philip Treacy. Following her tragic death in 2007, fellow fashion collector Daphne Guinness purchased her friend Izzy's extraordinary wardrobe. In 2013, London Somerset House opened Isabella Blow, Fashion Galore, an extensive showcase of the late fashion arbiter's eccentric style, expertly curated by Alistair O'Neill and Shona Marshall.
I archived the collection for Daphne Guinness before I worked here at Somerset House. I knew the pieces so well, so my role in it was very object-based, whereas Alistair's such a wonderful mind, was really brilliant at bringing the stories together into this amazing narrative. Isabella had an interesting career, obviously most known for her styling and working as fashion editor at magazines. Her first fashion job per se was working in a Guy Laroche boutique in Midlands, Texas, which seems quite unbelievable. After that, she moved to New York and worked with Anna Wintour. What we focused on in the exhibition most of all was her time at Tatler and the Sunday Times Style magazine, which were really important moments in fashion. She worked with the most wonderful photographers, designers obviously that she'd nurtured, and models that she'd found. It's something that Isabella's very famous for, alongside her work as a stylist and fashion editor, is what we call truffling for talent, her nurturing and discovering young, mostly British, but not always, designers, but bringing out the stories about Hussein Chalayan and Julia MacDonald, which are lesser known than the McQueen and Philip Tracy stories. Obviously, Isabella was of a very interesting family background. She was aristocratic. She came from this rich, rich history, and it was something that she played out a lot. It was something she liked to dine out on. And one of her most wonderful claims was, "You can date my family back to the time of the Black Prince and the Battle of Poitiers." And it was something she was really imbued with in everything she did, even her style. We decided to recreate the circular saloon, which is the centrepiece of Doddington Hall, which was Isabella's ancestral estate, her family home. This was something that we felt really magical, to be able to place Isabella back in the circular saloon. Also, we worked with the wonderful Shona Heath, who's a brilliant set designer, and she worked with a mask maker to carve the image of Isabella's face. These are then masks placed on the mannequins. Shona also then hand-painted different makeup for each outfit. We have 11 outfits in this section, which are built up using images, mostly red carpet and social diary images of Isabella at events and at fashion shows. And we looked at shoes to hats and everything in between, being a real ode to her style. Isabella really didn't wear or style or work with people that weren't her friends. She created this real creative hub, all of which were personally very strong relationships with Isabella. That would be great if people re-celebrated that sense of spontaneity and working together, because sometimes in today's fashion industry it all gets very corporate and business-led, and it's nice to really explore that.
London Fashion Week Fall 2018 was bittersweet for Burberry's much-loved Chief Creative Officer, Christopher Bailey. After 17 years working for the storied British house, Bailey showed his final Burberry runway collection. Bailey looked to his youth in the 1980s and 90s to inspire his swan song. Club culture and DIY styling blended with traditional Burberry plaid, an ode to the past, present, and future. A rainbow finale was especially meaningful to Bailey, who sent a message of acceptance and love to the LGBTQ community. Former Givenchy creative director Riccardo Tisci replaced Bailey in 2018 and remains at the design helm of Burberry. Queen of punk and lover of all things historical, Vivienne Westwood is no rebel without a cause. Ask Westwood the meaning of her politically provocative tee, and you'll see that this royal renegade is not afraid to state her mind.
This says, I am not a terrorist. Please don't arrest me. I want the British people to use their imagination. At the moment, people can be arrested, never told what they did wrong, and detained indefinitely. And I just want them to think how they would feel if it was their son or their child. Because actually these laws don't make us more safe, they make our country more dangerous.
One has to admire her passion. With a summer collection called Active Resistance to Propaganda, Westwood was proposing a revolution with graphic messages barely concealed in the clothes.
It's all together, really, and so it's got lots of graphics, and they're all mixed in with quite 17th century looks, space age looks, but the feeling I wanted to create with the fashion show is that there is a secret revolution going on. Maybe these people were one-time soldiers in Vietnam who stayed in the jungle and then they started reading and now they've come to town, or I don't know, just some secret revolution that's going on, because it is going on.
The UK got an invigorating dose of star power this season when Stella McCartney held a VIP presentation on home turf. A-list entertainers and fashion elites scored coveted invitations to London's most exclusive event.
The London show, we wanted to celebrate 2012 London, and we're a British brand, at the end of the day. We're based there, and I was born and bred there.
Eccentric fashion performance was indicative of London's subversive approach to style.
I think it's really fitting that designers such as Stella McCartney should be showing here. They're London designers. This is where it all began. This is where the very first collections were launched. If not at London Fashion Week, then at Central St Martin's Graduate Show. This is their hometown.
Many believe that fall 2012 marked a turning point for London.
London was really just so professional and so just on the board. Somebody said to me the other day, London lost its edge because now it runs so smoothly and it's like every other city, but it's like, no, it hasn't. The creativity coming out of there is just immense.
As the London calendar continues to swell, the industry anticipates more designers will follow in McCartney's footsteps.
I think in some respects they've been playing an away game for a long time, and it's now for the home to support the home team. Bring it all back home, as they say.
We just added a collection, another show. We did 2 shows this season essentially, and we made it much more evening wear, much more luxurious. It was a very separate part to what we've shown there, but very much a complement to it.
Mary Quant was a sensation in the 60s, and when fashion history is written, she will be a major star. She changed the way an entire world dressed, almost single-handedly. She was much more than the inventor of the miniskirt. She was the woman who made being young wonderful. After Mary Quant, everybody wanted to look like Jean Shrimpton or Twiggy. They wanted to be young, gawky, alive, exciting. She made wonderful, colorful clothes. She made fashion fun.
They were designing for people that were often painters or actors or singers, and who were feeling for something very new in fashion. And somehow this anticipated a look that became absolutely international and universal. I'd like to think I'd made high fashion possible for everybody, and for the young particularly.
London Fashion Week got a burst of fresh talent for spring 2007 with a much talked about official debut of Christopher Kane.
I think this London Fashion Week is turning out to be one of the best we've had, and I would say in a decade. We've got Christopher Kane doing his first collection, And again, a genuine talent. He was spotted by Donatella Versace while he was still a student at Central St. Martin's. And she sort of began sponsoring him and helping him. And he began working for her almost before he graduated. So to see his first collection on the runway was really a thrill.
Kane was hoping to provoke a reaction from his audience.
They take a breath, they actually have to and sit up, because it is, I think, really nice. I'm really pleased with it.
It was very short and tight and electric neon colours.
Really new glamour. I've really pushed my silhouette, like the really tight silhouette I put further with using really amazing elastic pieces. A lot of elastic and then lace, pushing masculine with the really feminine, so it looks really good. So it's nice to have that mix of that really aggressive tight with that delicate lace frill, which is really sweet. The neon will really make people sit up. So, because I'm not frightened of colour, so I want to prove that and prove that it can be done in a really nice way.
I thought that was a really fantastic show. I mean, I thought it was an incredible runway debut, you know. Lived up to the hype, and it's a very, very focused message. I mean, he really got the point across, and I thought the clothes and the workmanship were sort of extraordinary, and it looked new and modern in a different way.
So far so good. Really pleased with everything that I've had, and it was a lot of hard work, so yeah, it's great, so I'm very happy.
London-based designer Erdem looked to the work of famed British fashion photographer Cecil Beaton to inspire his fall 2020 collection, which he fittingly debuted at London's National Portrait Gallery. Rich materials like brocade and refined details like peels and eccentric feathers gave the collection an aristocratic feel. Drop-waist dresses, as well as nip-waist silhouettes, were nods to the Jazz Age and the 1940s. A romantic, bourgeois, and nostalgic collection from Erdem. London designer Simone Rocha gave Queen Elizabeth and her court a punk spirit on her royally rebellious fall 2014 catwalk.
Simone was a spectacular show. You know, it was spectacular last season when she did all those beautiful pearl trims. But this season it had a bit of a heraldic, almost a Scottish, very subtle theme where she was gathering and puckering all these interesting cottons and almost a cotton canvas. There was a trench coat that I was just obsessed with that had this lovely puffy, puckered design to it on top of very full skirts.
I thought it was her breakthrough collection. I mean, she's done great collections. She keeps growing, and I think this one was the tipping point for her.
Beautiful little gold embroidery and beads that held the dresses together. They were moving forward of that whole idea of the pearl trim that she did from last season. Interesting bright red plaid, and then the gorgeous red mohair that was just kind of sheer and luminous, and it just had a lovely light of weight, and then beautiful gold lace at the end.
I thought there were so many great ideas in that show without being like, I have an idea, here's this one, and here's this one, and then that one. It was very cohesive. It's just like a song, like you're in a club and the music crescendos into something. It was like that. I was really excited for her.
It was interesting to see that that amber, almost the color of liquid amber coming through in Python, which was a real kind of step ahead with the idea of luxury. You know, she loves lace. We see lace in many of her collections, and it's something that she goes back to season after season. But I love that idea, those great Python handbags with a lot of the sheared and puckered outerwear pieces.
I think the energy is created by the designer in a lot of ways. I mean, she's ready. Just the styling and the girls and the music, and it just all comes together.
There was a lovely sensuality to it. She wasn't hiding the body. It had a real kind of urban cool, but at the same time, it was sexy. She's a very, very talented young woman, and people are talking about her all around the world, and they should be, because that collection was really a standout.
So really, I have this ongoing interest in British folklore and mythology. Sounds quite abstract. There's a lot of creatures, gargoyles, these kind of almost like prehistoric shapes in the prints. Marred with this kind of, I have this constant interest as well in like downtown New York, like late 80s. So it's Keith Haring, Maripol, Stephen Sprouse, and then makeup like Nina Hagen, one of my idols, you know. It was like a melting pot. It was very much, I kind of wanted to have my greatest hits this collection because I've done quite a lot of different things and I wanted to show it, and I really feel I did show what I wanted to show. It was very me. So there's a lot of rhinestone mesh, which was sewn in strips to create these like different striped colours. Lots of crochet with the diamante, crochet with like velour. There was velour fabrics printed, all hand screen printed by me, which is super nice to have that control. The jewellery was a collaboration with Tidy Divine, Perspex. The clay was made by my mum. The resin was made by me. The bags were Coach customised from New York, which is great. And the glasses were Linda Farrow. So it was really nice to have all these different things and like bring these looks together. And I'm really happy with it. And PVC and jersey. A lot of fabrics. It's really, really like an extension of my wardrobe, but for an elevated sort of female version. But I do see it, you know, I think it could be unisex, but you have to be kind of carry it off.
Subversive, regal, rebellious, and eccentric, London is truly a world capital of style and an incubator of innovative fashion.